Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another One Piece review. This one's going to be chapter 960, Kazuki Oden Takes the Stage. And he does in this chapter. He shows up, we see him for the first time, but before that, let's get to the cover story. We begin with Beiji, and he's still in Dressrosa. It looks like he's mistaken two people for his family, for Lola and Chiffon, and that's pretty funny, and you can even see in the background there the statues of the people at Dressrosa made for Luffy, or Lucy, I guess, and Usopp. So that's pretty great. You see Usopp's screaming face once again, so that's pretty good. But to start the chapter off proper, we basically just get a couple of shots of Wano before all of Kaido's and Orochi's influence. You know, it looks like a prospering land. It's nice and lush and healthy. You see a lot of different wildlife. Then we get a couple of Wano travelers basically just saying about how they thought they saw a mountain moving, and they're stopping at a nice tea spot, and we see that Osuru is running it here. She says, "Oh, yeah, moving mountain. Perhaps you awoke a mountain god or something like that." And they're like, "Oh, that probably didn't happen." But Osuru basically remarks on them. It's like, "Oh, you three seem pretty happy right now. Why is that? And then they go on to remark, "Oh, if you can keep a secret, then we'll tell you." And they showcase this boar that they caught. This white boar, basically an albino boar or whatever. But with this, we can take it to Boss Korokama, and he'll give us, one white gold piece. And Osuru basically just tells us that apparently that is enough to buy a mansion. So not really sure what the white gold piece is, but apparently it's very valuable, and this guy really wants a white boar for some reason. But then Osuru notices some clashing and clanging in the back of her shop, and she goes to investigate, and it turns out that it is Kinemon, and he is there stealing from her. Apparently he's stealing from her purse, and this isn't the first time that it's happened. Apparently he does it all the time, because she stops him and is like, "You're stealing from me again?" And Kinemon explains, all my big brothers, my big bros are in trouble, financial trouble. And Osuru says, "Oh, they probably gambled away all their money again. So if, you better pay up this time. I'll take your clothing and all of your possessions. And if you can't pay me back then, I'll gut you and sell your organs on the market to make up the difference." So it's pretty hardcore, Suru. Yeah, that's pretty intense right there. The travelers, they're hearing all of this commotion in the back, and they're like, "Oh, well, thanks for the tea and everything. The great service, Osuru. We left some money on the table for you," and then they just leave. But of course, Kinemon heard everything while they were at the restaurant, so he tracks them down, and at this point in time, he's still a ruffian. He's not disciplined under Oden or anything, so he comes down and he, confronts them and attacks them and takes their boar. We see that he is a thug for the Yakuza, basically, and he's like, "You should be careful about what you say in front of other people. People like me might be around, and you got something pretty valuable there, but it's mine now." But then we cut to the flower capital, where we see Oden's father, Oden Sukiyaki, and basically he's just getting a report from one of his guards of all of Oden's exploits from whenever he was a child. Oden, his father should know all this stuff already. I don't know why. He's just going over it for our sake, apparently. But basically, he just goes on to say that, whenever he was born, he was so strong, he threw his handmaiden against the wall. Whenever he was only 2 years old, he caught a bunch of rabbits with his bare hands. Whenever he was 4 years old, he threw a boulder and crushed a bear with it. And whenever he was 6 years old, he started roaming the red light district looking for unsavory exploits, I guess. Whenever he was 8, he started drinking and gambling with people, and by the age of 9, he was basically just blacklisted by the Yakuza, and they wouldn't let him enter their casinos. And he retaliated by burning them down, so it's pretty hardcore. But because of this full-on war, basically, that he had with the Yakuza, he got sentenced to the quarry mines that we see in the earlier chapters of Wano. Basically, he's sent there to, smash rocks or move rocks around and everything. And we learn that he is apparently so good at it that after only a couple of years, he was running the joint because he was just doing far superior to everybody else there. And the guard basically is like, he really is a Kozuki. He is charismatic and outgoing. Basically, if he was sentenced as a prisoner, ended up running the prison after a year or so. That really shows some determination, I guess, or a will of the spirit. But the guard goes on to say, his retainer basically goes on to say, oh, but when he was 14, his attitude changed drastically. There was a drought in Wano that was causing, a lot of trouble for a lot of Wano citizens, and he was very kind. He diverted the river to give the people of Wano some water. Unfortunately, it flooded those towns, and people were hurt and everything. And instead of cleaning up his mess, he just tried to ride that river out into the sea and make it, leave Wano, basically. But obviously, we know that he had not left Wano yet. He failed on his adventure, his journey out to the sea. So yeah, that was the first time that he tried to leave Wano, and it did not go well for him. And then this is the last bit of info that we get about Oden whenever he was a young kid, because I guess his dad was sick of hearing all of this crap. But basically, the retainer says that whenever he was at age 15, he was like hiding in like a shrine somewhere, and every night he would go out and kidnap some women, I guess, and bring them back to where he was staying to create a harem. And all of the wives and fathers, I guess, of these girls were upset that they were getting taken off by somebody, and they got upset, so they tried to come find him. And the guard even says, the girls did stay of their free will, of course, but there was a harem revolt of it had come to be known as, because there was, all these guys going after Oden, basically, give us back our wives and our daughters back. And they even say that the Hyogoro family even needed to get involved because they were unable to quell the fighting or stop the fighting before anything happened. So I guess, yeah, Grandpa Hyo got involved with this beforehand. It's kind of insane. He's 15 years old and he's just capturing these ladies, and they're agreeing to stay with him. It's kind of funny. Then we just see Oden's dad, giving him his guard a letter, his retainer a letter. It clearly says disowned on it, and he says, just please get this to Oden somehow. I just don't want to be bothered with this any further. So this is the point where Oden got disowned, and he's clearly not shaping up anytime soon, but I imagine we'll see the beginning of that as we get further along in this backstory. Then we see, we hear some yelling in the flower capital. They're like, oh, this is the day we're getting you. You're not getting away this time. And we see Kinemon running away with the boar. He's like, what? I wasn't even doing anything to you. I'm just trying to cash in this bounty. And they're like, yeah, sure, buddy. And we see Grandpa Hyo back in his prime, basically. And he's like, oh, capture him and flay his skin off. Is what I would say if it wasn't Kinemon, but you guys stand no chance of defeating him. And they're like, oh yeah, boss, we'll show you how it is. So I guess, Kinemon is strong, still very strong back in the day. He could take on a bunch of boss Hyo's underlings, and Hyo is confident in the fact that they wouldn't be able to do anything about it, so that's pretty impressive. And then Kinemon continues running through the flower capital. We basically get our first sighting of Denjiro, so we get to see what he looks like. Remarkably not like Kiroshiro, by the way, but looks can change over however long. This is 40 some years ago, basically. But yeah, we get to see Denjiro. What he's doing is he's swindling a shop owner out of money, basically. He bought this pot for 30 gold, and then he's like, if I trade this in, the value will be $60, so I should get that big pot, right? And he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, go ahead. So he basically gets the big pot and everything, and he's swindling this shop owner, and they're like, oh, Kinemon is remarking on it. It's like, how, he did that really easily. That guy must be an idiot. Then we cut to one of the one of the weirder scenes in the chapter. It's the Wano crematorium where somebody has passed away, so they burn their ashes and everything. And this is where we get introduced to Oden. So basically, he is just he's eating Oden, like a noodle dish, kind of like a soup or whatever, but he's eating Oden on the corpse of somebody that has just been, burned alive. He he's using the fires of their brazier to like heat his pot and everything. So that's very disrespectful, Oden. That's kind of and the family's reacting that way. They're like, get him away from our family. He's just burned. We were going to take his ashes and throw him wherever, but we can't because there is a literal bowl of Oden sitting on top of his corpse, which is pretty wild. But basically Odin is just feasting like crazy, and everyone's like, this is an insult to his memory. I can't believe that you're doing this. And then he basically just drinks a bunch of sake, plinks it down on his the skeleton, and he's like, the next time that we drink together, Katsuzo, it will be in the afterlife. So I guess he had some kind of relationship with this guy that he thought it was, appropriate to just eat an entire bowl of Oden and drink a huge gallon of sake in front of him, and then whenever he leaves, leave it on the skeleton and the corpse. But I don't know who this guy was or what his relationship to Oden was, but it's just, you see that Oden is a bit of a crass person. He doesn't really care. He does whatever he wants. And he's leaving. He says, oh, by the way, my condolences for the family or whatever, kind of dismissive. It seems that way anyway. And some guy with him is just like, oh, please, just he doesn't know really how to express himself. So my apologies for Oden. I don't know who this guy is. He doesn't follow Oden or anything. He looks like he was a part of the family. He might have just been friends with him or something. But it's kind of funny because some of the family members are like, oh, wow, he's so cool. How could he do this? They're like, oh, hide your daughters and your wives. This guy is no good. And so basically it's just Oden walking through the streets. We see that he has Enma and Abe no Habakiri already. So he seems pretty strong still. Already, I should say. And he remarks, that the fire bell has been clanging on for an oddly long time. What the heck is going on? So he looks up, and there's I guess a fire tower or whatever, and he yells up there, what's going on? Is there a fire? And the guy basically says, it's not just a mere fire. It is a huge raging fire. And Denjiro and Kinemon are talking with each other. Denjiro basically explains to Kinemon, why do you have that boar with you? And he says, oh, I was going to turn it in to the boss, and he was going to give me a reward for it. I don't know why he would want it. But Denjiro says, Boss Korakama probably wanted this so that he could crush the Hyogoro family. There's a tale about this. A white boar, it's supposed to be like the herald of a god, mountain god, or the son or daughter of one, the child of one. And the tale is that wherever this thing goes, its parent isn't that far behind. Denjiro says, according to the text, a full-grown white boar is the size of a mountain, and wherever that little guy goes, it's gonna come looking for it. And he says that legend has it that 100 years ago, an entire region was completely destroyed because of it. Kinemon had no idea about this. He's like, oh, I had no idea. Oh my goodness, am I going to be the one responsible for destroying the capital? And basically, it shows the capital, everybody screaming, a mountain god is coming, please evacuate, quickly, get out. And we get a little picture of the grown adult white boar, and Oden was eavesdropping on Denjiro and Kinemon's conversation, and he says, oh, that's a strange thing to be overhearing right now. I don't know you guys, but how about this? You give me that boar. So looks like Oden is going to be taking down the mountain god, the white boar, the adult-sized white boar in the next chapter. And this is where his relationship with Kinemon and Denjiro will start. So yeah, that was a pretty good chapter. It was nice finally getting to see Oden and finally getting to see Denjiro. I wasn't really expecting that. Seeing Grandpa Hyo as whenever he was younger, and Kinemon whenever he was younger, except it's only 20 years younger, I guess. because he got teleported 20 years into the future with Lady Toki's ability, but he still looks rather younger, and his ability precedes him based on what we heard from Grandpa Hyo at the time, Boss Hyo. Yeah, so that was the video, guys. Let me know what you think about the chapter. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see where the rest of the backstory for Oden goes. I want to see how he kind of reforms himself from being like he's honestly a massive dick right now. So it would be nice to see how he reforms himself into kind of like a proper samurai, shogun daimyo. How he, whenever he meets all these guys, whenever he changes their ways, because Kinemon is a thug and Denjiro is a swindler right now. So I don't think it's going to be hard to say if Denjiro is Kiyoshiro like we have been speculating. Perhaps he really is just the witching hour boy, because he's a bit of a stealer, a swindler. So that could just be what he's doing in the current time, is stealing things from the rich people and giving it to the poor. But you'd think that after, how long everybody's been in Wano right now, that he would know about it, especially with the leaflets and everything. He would know where to meet everybody and everything like that. But I'm not sure. I'm a little bit speculative. Maybe Denjiro has passed away. Who knows? He seems pretty young right here, so maybe he had a significant change in his appearance and he is Kiyoshiro, but I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. I'm excited to learn more about Oden's abilities. Let me know what you think about all of that. Let me know if you think he's going to be able to just stop this mountain god basically in a few strokes. I bet he can. He has Enma and Abe no Habakiri right now, so I'm sure that he'll be able to take it out. Let me know what you think about Oden's terrible exploits when he was a child, and thanks for watching, everybody. Look forward to another review next week, and as always, thanks for stopping by.